have the time to listen to me whine about nothing and everything all at once. I am one of those melodramatic fools, neurotic to the bone, no doubt about it. Sometimes I give myself the creeps. Sometimes my mind plays tricks on me. It all keeps adding up. I think I'm cracking up. Am I just paranoid? Am I just stoned?
Welcome to the Jim Reith Show Unleashed podcast number 14 already, and this is the first new one of the new year. We did a best of, and producer Bill had a little chat with the excitable boy who remains certainly excitable.
Very, very, very excited about movies. Almost more excited than I am. I'm very excited. That's my thing now. In my older, I like to come home and watch a movie and stuff, but that boy's got it. He's on a different level.
Yeah, he's on a different level in a lot
We
of
could have
ways.
gone probably another hour, too.
In a lot of ways, that's for sure. Our Yahoo of the Week is Mike Johnson, who is the Speaker of the House, and he could be Yahoo of the Week every week because all he does is kiss Donald Trump's butt, so he is our Yahoo of the Week. Now, we're safely and warmly ensconced in the inner sanctum here at the secret undisclosed Central New York location, even though it's frigid outside and will remain so for some time, I'm told. There's huge what do you call it, Alberta Clippers come down, and it's just like an old central New York winter, a foot of snow and all that kind of stuff.
I played the Turning Stone Casino on Friday evening with my country band. When we were done, it took me a long time to get home because now I don't take the throughway because I go 31 all the way.
Right, yeah.
But it was knuckle on the way home.
White
white knuckle on the way home. I got up at 9. So I got home at like 3. It was almost 3:30 when I got home. I got up at 9 o'clock because I had Scars rehearsal in Baldwinsville, off of Cold Springs Road, and it took me from here to his house, which usually takes me about 25 minutes, hour and 10.
Holy cow.
Saturday morning. Same amount of time on the way back. I was supposed to play Labrador Mountain on Saturday evening. I called them and I said, negative. I was exhausted from driving in it. And I probably could have gotten there fine because it was letting up.
It would have taken you 2 hours to get there.
But it's the point of then I have to play for 3 hours in that
Right.
state. And I felt so bad but for mental health I would have been miserable.
That's where we skied in high school for ski club, was Labrador Mountain. I love Labrador Mountain. And that trying to get there on the, once you get off the main roads, forget about it.
Yeah.
I mean, that's crazy. So I'm glad you didn't attempt that.
And I feel bad, and they weren't very pleased with me not doing that. But I'll make it up. I'm playing their other venue in February. I'll make it up for them. I'll make it up to them.
All right. So while we were away from the program, of course, we've had the 2 terror attacks, one in Las Vegas and one in New Orleans. And it surprised me, I guess, although I really shouldn't be surprised, that they went ahead and had the Sugar Bowl the next day. And thankfully, this did turn out to be a lone wolf type of thing, and it wasn't any kind of an organized terror attack. But had it been, it would have been the perfect time for someone to piggyback on the first attack and do the second attack when I know that security was tightened. But one thing that I try to get across to people, and always have, is that you're not safe, okay? I'm not safe. None of us is safe anywhere. We're not. And, my favorite movie is The Godfather, and Michael says it very well. We know throughout history that you can kill anyone at any time. Now, it doesn't mean you're not going to get caught, because you are probably, especially now with cameras everywhere. But we're not safe. And I worked for the county for a while in social services, and the commissioner there is a great woman, very smart. And she got mad at me because in one of our management meetings, I said that. We're not safe here. No one is safe. There's no metal detectors at the Civic Center, okay? So you're not safe. If you go to an event now where there's tens of thousands of people, you're not safe. And you have to just understand that and hope that nothing happens. And if something does happen, that you're not involved in it. Because anyone at any time can do something like what happened in Bourbon Street, on Bourbon Street. And, it was a complete failure on the part of the police there. And this bizarre news conference that they had with, 19 people trying to talk and defend themselves. And, I mean, the things that they have in place, they don't work. They were broken, okay? The bollards that pop up from the street. I know you've seen them in other places. They're either concrete or metal pillars that pop up from the street itself, okay? They weren't working. So what they did was try to block the street off with cars. Okay, well, that's fine. They left the sidewalk open. And like they were flabbergasted that someone would, take a car down the sidewalk. Are you kidding me? I mean, I wanted to scream at the news conference. You've got to be joking. And one guy finally did ask the question, well, didn't you take into account that someone might come down the sidewalk? And obviously the answer is no, they didn't. Now, in other places where they've had huge events and they block off streets and stuff like that, they do it with like garbage trucks and, snow plows and stuff like that. Not cop cars. It's absurd. And there's nothing you could have done about Las Vegas. Nothing. Guy pulled up, sat there for a minute, set the thing off and shot himself. That's it. There's nothing you could have done.
Was he trying to, I haven't read into that one as much. Was he trying to harm other people?
They haven't released his. They all write these manifestos or whatever, so they haven't really released it. But I would assume that yes, he was trying to. I don't think he was trying to kill a lot of people because there wasn't that kind of explosives in the truck, but he was trying to hurt people.
And there was it didn't even break the glass of the front doors.
No, it didn't. No, it was amazing actually. When you watch the explosion, they have it on video, and you watch the explosion and then the fireworks that were in there go off. It's just really bizarre. But the guy in New Orleans had explosives planted too, and he had a detonator with him, but he didn't set it off. I mean, he intended to kill way more people than 15. He intended to kill hundreds of people. There's no question about that. He was shooting out the truck and shot a couple of police officers, and that was it's awful. But to think that, we're safe and we've taken measures, no, we're not safe. We should have learned that at 9/11. We're not safe. We can take measures to make us safer, but certainly not to make us safe.
And it's domestic terrorism.
It is.
It's
yes.
not somebody from another. It's domestic.
No, it's domestic terrorism.
Our own military. Both guys.
Right, both guys. One was active duty Green Beret, the guy in Vegas.
Yep.
So, this whole the whole idea, and somebody said this at the New Orleans news conference. It's the police department's responsibility to prevent this type of thing. That is so far from the truth. The police department, a local police department, is a reactionary force, okay? They come to you when a crime has been committed. It's not up to them to prevent that. We have 3-letter agencies all over Washington that are set up to do that. CIA, NCIS, NIS, FBI. Those are the people that are tasked with preventing stuff like this, and they do. They prevent stuff we never hear about. Dozens a year, okay? A local police department's responsibility is to respond to a crime scene after it's been committed and then find the criminals and arrest them. That's what police do. These other agencies are tasked with preventing crime. Now, the other major thing, of course, that happened was the death of the inmate at that correctional facility. I don't know if you've seen the video. They believed that because their body cams were on standby, that they weren't taking video. They were. They weren't taking audio, but they were shooting video. And so they have video of it. Now, the video that I've seen, now I wasn't there and I don't know what happened, but when they bring him in and lay him down on a table, he's not doing anything. He's not resisting. He's not fighting. He's not doing anything. They lay him down on the table, and the one guy starts wailing on him. I mean, really smashing him. Another guy kicks him in the groin with his boots. One guy standing there smiling, kind of laughing. Another guy holds him up by his neck at one point. Look, now I know, thankfully, District Attorney Bill Fitzpatrick is going to be the special prosecutor.
I wonder if they didn't know that. I bet if they knew that, they would have to go against D.A. William Fitzpatrick.
I don't think they would have done it.
They're going to be in trouble.
They are in trouble. And the thing that mystifies me and mystifies everyone that I talk to is the fact that these guys have not been arrested. Look, they're on camera beating the living hell out of this guy. He dies, and they're not been arrested. It mystifies me. I don't get it. I know they've been fired. The warden was booted and should have been. Evidently, these guys were, at least a couple of them were part of a beat-up gang that they would go in and just beat up prisoners. It's just pathetic. And the fact that they haven't been arrested for anything is beyond me. So there must be some reason. And, we're not going to bother the DA with this because he can't really talk to us about it anyway. But I know that if there's anybody that's going to look into it and do the right thing, it's him. So I'm very confident that these guys will be punished in the end. But why they're not in custody, I have no idea at all. And to watch that video, it's just sickening. It really is just awful. And that's another thing now that amazes me to some degree. You will see something happen on a street, like somebody attacks an innocent victim, right? Instead of helping, 2 or 3 people are standing there videoing it with their phones. They're not helping out the victim. They're videoing it. And I understand. You don't want to get involved. This guy may have a gun. He may have a knife, whatever. But you've got to be kidding me. You're going to stand there and take video? And I've seen that more than once now. There's cameras everywhere, and that's a good thing and a bad thing. There's no privacy anymore in America at all. But it does prevent crime. There's no doubt about that, and it helps solve crime. I mean, they got this guy's truck from the time he came in, and they have it going down the street. They have another shot of him just missing a group of people when he first turns on to Bourbon Street. And he's booking. He just misses a group of people because they jump out of the way, and he continues down the street. But they have all this stuff on video now.
Well, look at the CEO. That whole thing was when they shot the CEO, when Luigi, whatever his name was, shot the CEO. Everything was on video.
Right.
Everything
from the time he came into town.
Yep,
they have him on video. Walking, riding the bike to get away, going through Central Park. And here's another. I'm glad you brought that up because here's another thing. Here's another thing that's happened since all these things have taken place. It's these ridiculous freaking, and I'd like to use stronger language, but I won't. It's these ridiculous conspiracy theories
That's everything
that come up.
That's everything now, but yes.
It's ridiculous. It's absurd. These things pop up. They have no basis in fact whatsoever. It's just some idiot espousing whatever he wants to raise ire among people for whatever reason. And unfortunately, because they have such a wide reach now, given the internet, there's a certain segment of society that will believe it and do believe it, no matter what it is. And it's sad. It really is. And there's all kinds of conspiracy theories about all this stuff. Because these 2 guys were veterans, they knew each other, blah, blah, blah. You get all this kind of stuff until, and then when the facts come out, this is what you get from people when the facts come out. Well, I don't know who to believe. Well, don't believe the idiot. How about that? How about believing someone who has, basis in fact? How about believing the facts? Don't believe the jackass that says whatever he wants to on the internet. No, I don't know who to believe. Yeah,
Joe, let's believe Joe the plumber.
Exactly. Great. That's great. That's true. That is so true. And that's where we are now in this country. Now, we have the chance to start anew and hopefully not be as divisive as we have been in the past few years. I'll believe it when I see it, but it looks like some members of Congress are willing to stand up now. But we'll see if that lasts once Trump takes over as president of the United States. Now, he will have a very, very small majority in both the House and the Senate. And the House majority gets even smaller because he's taking people from the House and putting them on his cabinet. And they won't be replaced until special elections take place. And those won't take place until April or May. So you'll have a period of time where Republicans who want to pass whatever will have a very, very thin margin in which they're going to be able to do that. And that's a good thing, I believe. I believe one house should be Democrat, one house should be Republican, and I don't care which one is which. I don't ever believe that everything should be Democrat run or everything should be Republican run. I just don't, because it will force people to at least negotiate and come together in a bipartisan way. Once you have one party in power, they do whatever they want, pretty much, and that's never a good thing. And you have Elon Musk, who is now ingratiating himself into other governments across the world because he is the richest man in the world. And now the UK is having a major problem with him involving himself. We have Justin Trudeau, who's resigned, and there's going to be a new government in Canada. Germany is having a problem. It's all over the world now, and it's because, and this is going to be my conspiracy theory, it's because really the multi-billionaires run the world now, and they have just dropped any pretense. Like Elon Musk has just dropped any pretense of being behind the scenes. He's in front of everything, and no one elected him, right? I mean, no one elected him, and now he's doing what he's doing, and there's really no one to stop him now.
People have they think he came up with Tesla.
No,
he just bought it.
He bought it. His father left him an emerald mine. That's how he made his first fortune. Not billionaires, for the most part, not all of them. Bezos and Gates are two guys who are self-made billionaires, okay? Most of them inherited wealth and then grew from there. Elon Musk inherited an emerald mine, okay? He bought Tesla. He bought SpaceX. He has people who do things for him, which is smart. I mean, you're supposed to hire people smarter than you to invent things, and that's what he's done. So, I don't know. It's going to be very, very interesting in the next 6 months, because the first couple of months will tell you which direction we're going. Are we going in a bipartisan direction? Are people going to work together in Washington for the betterment of the people or not? And only time will tell. I've heard that a million times too. But that in this case, that's true. Only time will tell.
There's also and I've read this kind of fleeting. I didn't look a lot into it. Was President-elect Trump complaining about the flags being at half-mast at the inauguration? Yes. I don't understand. I guess I don't understand that.
Well, because he's a narcissist and he believes everything should be about him, and he believes that it takes away from his ceremony that the flags will be at half-staff. They do that for 30 days because an ex-president just died.
Yep. And we get a national holiday on Thursday, today, really, because banks and post offices are closed, right?
Right. So, yes, he's upset because he feels it takes the spotlight away from him. And that's, too bad, because that's the way it's going to be. All right, now we're going to lighten things up because we have a couple of great interviews today. We're talking to Michael Benny from Channel 5, and we're talking to our friend Charlie Miller about his pizza quest. And I think both are going to be something that you're really, really going to enjoy. So let's get right into that. One of the things that I wanted to do with the podcast was perhaps introduce you to people that you don't know a lot about and maybe find out a little bit more about them. And we're starting that off with a longtime friend of the program, my friend Michael Benny from Channel 5. How are you?
I'm great. How are you?
I'm fantastic. Thank you. I'm happy to be doing this again, getting my toe back into the media, a world that you're certainly familiar with. So tell me how you even got started in the world of television news, Michael.
First, let me say how I've missed your voice. I've really missed your voice, and I'm glad that it's back. Really, really, really glad. And forgive the dogs who will not calm down upstairs. I'm so sorry about that.
We can't hear it. It's okay.
Okay, good. So it's the typical thing where it bothers the owner and almost nobody else. That's good to know. I grew up in Scotia, outside Albany, and now I've lived in Syracuse longer than I've lived anywhere. So this is home now. But the family is still there. I worked in the restaurant business all through high school, all through college, and pursued, my degree and wanted to be in television, always knew that I wanted to do TV news. But the allure of the restaurant business, which is really so similar, I think, to what I do now, it's all about talking to people. I find it to be a lot about customer service. I still really, really love customer service. And I thought I was a bit torn. Am I going to pursue this path in the restaurant business, or am I going to pursue what I went to school for? And there was a summer where I was managing a restaurant where weddings were done. It was a sort of a premier place to do weddings in the Albany area. And I was doing the schedule, and it was the end of August, and all the kids started coming to me saying, "Oh, I can't be here next week. I've got to go back to school." And that was when I sort of had an aha moment, like, what am I doing? I've got to go do what I've told myself since I was 8 years old I was going to go do. So I started in Binghamton, and that was the start of my career at WBNG.
Now, did you start as a reporter or did you start right away as an anchor?
They wouldn't put me on the air as a reporter. The first bus I had. I mean, it's since I have heard from so many people who have had hugely successful careers, well beyond mine in Syracuse. I mean, these people are at the network now making millions of dollars, and everyone has a story about when they first started out that someone said to them, you're not. I don't know if you're ready yet. We're gonna." So they put me behind the scenes as a producer of the newscast, which now that I've done this for my entire professional life, what a mistake that was because you're in charge of the entire newscast as opposed to just one segment if you are the on-air talent. But for whatever reason, they decided that was a good idea. They put me in charge of a newscast. At this point, I don't even remember which one. And I worked my way up from there. I really wanted to be on the air, and eventually they put me on doing weekends, reporting on the Blueberry Festival and this festival and that festival,
Exactly.
and that's sort of how I figured it out.
It's interesting because back in those days, I know we sound old, but back in those days, that's what you had to do to get to Syracuse. You had to start at Binghamton or Utica to get to Syracuse. And that's not the case anymore, especially with reporters. They hire them right out of college.
Yes, yes. Something has changed, in my opinion, about the desire for the job. There's a smaller pool of people who are interested in being part of local news. I don't know what's happened. I know that for many years the pay was a big factor.
Right.
Your love of telling stories, connecting with people, doing the news needed to overcome the financial obstacle of doing it as a young person in some town that you'd never lived in before and paying rent and all of the things of life. But something more deeply, because the salaries have gone up, at least in my company, they have. Something else has happened, I believe. I don't know whether it's years of the term fake news. I don't know what happened. We went through something similar, I think, years ago with teachers, where particularly in New York State, teachers were demeaned. They were all making too much money. They all had summers off, and they were sort of becoming the enemy. It was sort of a political thing. And then what we saw was a dip in the number of people who wanted to become teachers. Something I think that's akin to that is happening in journalism, in local news as well.
I think that's a perfect analogy. Absolutely. And I remember when that happened to teachers, and it is a political thing. And this has become a political thing too. It is years and years and years of people being bombarded with fake news. These people don't know what they're talking about. They're biased and all that. When nothing could be further from the truth, of course, but people get that into their head. So I think that's a perfect analogy. I really do. Why have you stayed in Syracuse for so long, Michael? I think that with your look and your talent, certainly could have gone to a major market by now. And I know that you have chosen not to.
Yeah, I came here at 24, um, a baby, and now I'm going to turn 50 this year. So I really don't know what has happened. I I don't know. Is this how this is supposed to work? I find myself really thinking, whoa, let's just hit pause because it's all going too fast. I reached a point, I think, in my early 30s. People think it's such a high compliment, and I take it as such now that I'm older. What you just said. Oh, I either enjoy your work or I think you're good at what you do. When are you leaving? Syracuse has always, and there's so many Syracuses all over the country where people who do what I do hear this. If they're any good at it, they hear from people who think it's a high compliment to say, when are you leaving? When are you going to go to the network? When are you going to try it somewhere else? And in my early 30s, I really reached a point where I had to sort of almost forgive myself for being okay with being here and this being home. It was this weird professional thing that I don't know if people outside of this business get that a lot,
No,
where people feel
no.
comfortable saying to you, when are you going to leave? As if that's something that's any of their business, really. To be honest with you.
Well, I stayed too. I stayed for
And I always,
27 years too, and I loved it here, and this is my home, and so I stayed, and people would ask me the same thing. But for television, it's a different thing, especially when you have David Muir, who's gone to the network and is a multi
yes.
gazillionaire and everything. But people don't, and I meant that as a compliment, by the way. But people don't understand why you fall in love with an area, you love living here, you love what you do, and so why would you leave?
Why would I leave? I've got a station group that is so good to me, that has been so good to me. Um, I have a life, a full life outside of what I do for all of those hours a day. There is no, and I'm close enough to my family. I'm blessed that my parents are still here. They're young as parents go. They're only 20 years older than I am.
And they're
So,
wonderful people. I had the opportunity to
yeah.
meet your parents at your the 40 over 40 thing you were a few years ago that you were
Yeah.
recognized, and I met his parents, and they're the sweetest people you could ever meet.
Oh.
Just
You
look
know,
at
they're so proud of all. I have a brother and sister who are younger than me. They're so proud and they tell us all the time. I mean, I think I'm not a parent, but my goodness, if there's one thing you can do as a parent, um, make sure your kid knows because my dad's going to listen to this and he's going to hear that part, and my mom is going to hear that part, and they're just going to melt. So that's what that kind of makes it worth it.
I got a Michael Benny story for you. I was at
I
I
got a
was
lot of them.
I was at Wegmans one day, right? And I'm walking around with my cart, and I saw him, and I'm like, "Is that Michael Benny?" Because it didn't look like Michael Benny to me. He's a little undercover look that you had going there, and I'm like,
Do you have his little ball cap on?
he did. And so
Yeah.
I went up to him. I said, Michael? He goes, hey, Jim. I said, you don't look like Michael Benny. He goes, yeah, I know. That's that's intentional, and I don't blame you for doing that. Because I'm sure, though, for you, I know the same as for my friend Matt Mulcahy and your friend Matt. The interaction with the public that you have is almost always positive, right?
Almost always, yes. Digitally, maybe not so much, but
Right.
in
No.
person, almost always. And people will say, I'll be with friends, and they'll say, "Oh, doesn't that get old? You're at Wegmans and you see someone and I say, no, that's part of the job, and that's part of the gratification of it, the connection. It's the greatest compliment when someone not just recognizes you. That's always nice and it validates what I do because it's a visual medium. But it's more gratifying when they're in person with you, they want to connect and they say to you, that story about blah, 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 blah. I could tell you were mad or you were sad or you were angry about it, or you thought that the answer that the mayor gave was so ridiculous, or blah, 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 whatever it is, that connection with people, that is gold for me. That is absolute gold. It's so gratifying to know that we're not just in this one-way exchange always, although it is a one-way exchange.
Right.
If you are the type of person who can bring empathy to doing it, you can connect on one notch lower, one notch deeper. And when you hear that back from someone at Wegmans or somewhere else, it's deeply gratifying.
Yeah, and it's interesting because you're in people's homes, right, visually, and so they begin to feel like, oh, it's time for Michael. I got to watch Michael, So you're in the home with them, and so it becomes familiar to them, and that's why I think people can approach you, and it's almost again always positive, and they enjoy what you do because if someone is watching you every single night, they're not watching you because they don't like you. They're watching you because they enjoy what you do and you're doing it exceptionally well. It was 50-50 for me because I had such opinions on things and people would sometimes recognize me and some, it was a toss up. When they asked me if I'm Jim Reith, I would say depends on who's asking. But for you guys who go into people's homes, and it's the same for all my friends in the media who are anchors and reporters, they watch you for a reason. They watch you because they're comfortable with you and because they like what you're doing. Producer Bill, does he look 50 to you?
Not at all.
No.
No.
It's crazy. You said he's 50 years old. You got to
Yeah.
be kidding me. I thought he was 35.
Oh God, I don't know what happened. I mean, 50 is it's such a thing. It's a thing and it's not a thing. And 40 was like, oh, let's have a party. And 50 feels like, let's just sort of quietly be cool with the fact that we're here.
50 is
Right?
when it hit me. That's when it really hit me. 40 was great, but 50 is, yeah, that's when it hit me. I'm 66 now, and 50 is when it really hit me.
I got 3 more years.
See, I didn't think you were that old either.
I'll turn
I look 80
47.
and I'm 66. You guys all look like you're young. It's
I don't know
ridiculous.
why these decades start to go like minutes.
I would never have believed you've been here that long. First of all, 26 years, and never would have believed that you're 50. It's crazy.
Michael,
Yeah.
how long has it been since when you first did the story on what's his name, the kid that you've followed through that had
Easton.
Oh yeah,
Easton? Yes.
Easton
yeah.
Friedel.
How
Easton
long?
Friedel of Weedsport. I started with Easton.
I
The
was
story
there,
about
so
Easton is we used to have to pitch. I don't know how much time you've got,
We
but the
got all
story
the
about
time in the
Easton
world.
in a nutshell is we used to have to pitch these ideas. I'm the worst story pitch person. I can take a story and run with it. I can get a contact and keep the story up going, but I'm the worst at coming up with the idea. And there was this deadline. You must come up with sweeps ideas, sweeps the ratings period. You must come up with 3 sweeps ideas by the end of business tomorrow. And of course, that sent me into a panic. And someone had posted on Facebook, oh, this child was born with this rare skin disease, and they don't know if he's going to make it. And I thought, well, I've never heard of this skin disease. I wonder maybe the family will talk to me. Well, not only would the family talk to me, they invite me into their home to do this like documentary style report on what it's like to care for this child with blisters all over his body. That was, he's going to be 13, I think. So that was a long time ago. And people ask me all the time, Easton will be on my tombstone somehow, a cute little picture of him,
I'm editing
because the
this stuff.
connection that I had with the family was so deep. And people felt that. And we did so many updates on him. But my goal for him really always was that he not be newsworthy. And I'm so happy to say that today he is a thriving kid in Weedsport. Um, and he is no longer newsworthy, really, except for, maybe some milestones. When he graduates high school, maybe I'll do an update, but
Right. What were we going to
He
say,
was.
Bruce? Bill?
I'm sitting in the bay editing the stuff with tears falling down.
Yeah.
The way that Michael went and the way he did it was fantastic.
Yeah, it was powerful.
Yeah, because the family was involved and everybody and why I said that. And it wasn't too long ago. Didn't you do an update not too long ago about him?
I did an update, I think, when he turned 10.
Okay.
That was kind of like a milestone birthday
Yeah.
because children with epidermolysis bullosa, whatever type they have, are not expected to survive, much past 1 year. I
Wow.
mean, they need so much care. One little infection will tear through them, and that's it. And this little guy has managed to survive and thrive. He's really the closest thing to a miracle I've seen.
Is that the most impactful story on you that you've done?
It's definitely the story that people most closely associate me with, because I mean, my goodness, the line between here is the first report, it's told in very journalistic style, and these are the facts. And, by the time I had covered him to the point where he was 5 years old, we had done so much and people were so interested. I was so invested. I think I blurred it a little bit, you know what I mean, for the sake of telling a more full picture of what this family and what this child was going through. So, yes, it's probably had the most impact on me, but it has most certainly had the most impact on the people who watch, because people stopped me, just last week, a woman in the neighborhood. What happened to that boy? And, and I'll give the exact same, I'll give a more condensed version of what I just told you.
And Michael was rightfully recognized for it many times.
Yeah, and,
with
and
Yeah.
it should have been.
Yeah.
It was incredible. It really was. Well, I hope this has given people an insight into who you are, Michael. And Bill and I, of course, have known you forever, and we appreciate your work. You do a fantastic job, and continued success to you. And I appreciate your time today.
Like I said, I'm so glad you guys are back. So glad you guys are back.
Thank you, Michael.
Hello, it's producer Bill, and boy, do we have some merch for you. And all you have to do is go to the Jim Reith Show Unleashed.com. That's right, the Jim Reith Show Unleashed.com. And yes, Reith, Reith. The Jim Reith Show Unleashed.com. You can get your hoodies, t-shirts, coffee mugs. We've even got cell phone cases at the Jim Reith Show Unleashed.com.
So you'll remember not that long ago, we had Charlie Miller on. I was able to go with him and enjoy a pizza at Liberty Pizza, and he did 52 pizzerias over the past year, over 2024. And he's going to join us now to talk about wrapping that all up and then what's ahead for him. Charlie, how are you?
Well, how are you guys?
Great. We're fantastic. So that was quite the mission that you did. 52 pizzerias in the course of a year. And what's funniest about that is there's probably another 52 you didn't even get to.
It's funny you should say that, because I started with a list when I first started. I had about 50, and then the list from readers quickly grew to about 90. And obviously I thought, I wasn't even going to put a limit on it, but I thought I could do 3 in a week. No way.
No.
So I got through 52, and I'm glad I did. But I left a lot off the tour. But sometimes I would go to places that were on the list and they just weren't all that good. Like, everybody has a bad day.
Right.
So I just left. I didn't write about it. And so.
That's interesting. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people would write about it anyway and rip it. And I'm glad you didn't.
Listen, I'm not, I've told you this a million times, but I'm not a food critic, and I'm not going to be responsible for costing someone money or customers. I don't think that's fair. It's just not what I do. I tell stories. I do offer my opinions, and I did, but I'm not going to shred someplace because they had some kid making the sauce who used sugar instead of salt, or vice versa.
Yeah, I'm glad. I really am, because it really was a great read every single time. And I know a lot of people have tried out the places that you looked at. I know these places have seen an increase in business, especially the ones that you really enjoyed. So give me a rundown of what the best of was on each category.
Okay, well, at each place I went and ranked the crust, the toppings, not just the sauce, the overall charisma, which was the appearance, smell, and overall look at the pizza, and the value, because some cost more than others, but you can attribute that to the ingredients. But boy, I found some that I never knew existed, and they turned out to be amazing. Like my favorite sauce personally was Angelo's out in Auburn, and I found out later that I think he's the only pizzeria in the 52 that I went to that actually cooks the sauce. A lot of places, they take the tomatoes, they mix it up with the spices, and then it cooks on the pizza in the oven.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, exactly. I didn't know
Oskin Eats does that too, because it's the way they build the pizza in Utica, which is my favorite pizza place in this area. It's my favorite.
Yep. Yeah. I mean, yes, and I can't wait to go there. Obviously, they're a little out of our area, but for this type of thing.
I did not know that. I thought everybody cooked their sauce.
No, Jim. I learned more about pizza than you would ever imagine. There are 52. So I went to 52 places. There's 52 different crusts, and they all make their crust differently. Everyone has a method, and my favorite actually was Peppino's. I don't think I told you this, but John Vigliotti, the owner, I said, "Oh, so tell me about your crust." An hour and a half later,
wow,
he's still going. So I thought, oh boy, do I ask him about the sauce? But it was amazing, and he does a 3-day fermentation. I'm not going to get into the science of it, but there's no gum line, and that's that little soft, chewy layer between the bottom of the crust and the sauce. So his crust was amazing. It was fantastic. No wonder he wins awards in Vegas every year. And that was in my top 3 pizzas. Angelo's was my favorite sauce. The most, the nicest pizza guy in the world was Robbie T. We talked about that the last time I was there.
Dude, he could have the world's worst pizza, and I'd eat it every time I pass there because he's the nicest guy in the world.
And he's going to remember what you ordered last time.
Yes, and you might even go in just once. He'll remember
exactly. The most best value, I think, was the Meat Lovers Pizza from West End Kitchen, which is where Patsy's Pizza used to be over on West or Erie Boulevard West. And that was a surprise. I mean, it was like a monstrous, like 22-inch pizza loaded with really good meat and cheese, and it was $20. Wow. And I would say the other, like the most or the least expensive was Angotti's, just a garlic pizza, which was phenomenal. And I thought it said a lot for Bobby Angotti to suggest I buy the garlic pizza, not one of these ones with elaborate toppings. And it was fantastic. It was like $12.
All of Angotti's food is outstanding.
And I like how you didn't stick with the, let's just try the cheese pizza, because that's how I like how you went. It was different from every place. I really like that.
Well, you asked the owner, right, to recommend you a pizza. That was great.
Yeah, and I wasn't sure how I was going to go about it when we started this a year ago, because it was a year ago that I did my first one. And I thought, well, I'm not an expert. Boy, if I had to eat 52 plain cheese pizzas, I would probably hate pizza now. But I don't know how
Portnoy does it.
Yeah, I said, what are you going to make at the end of your long day and you're hungry? What are you going to bring home to your family? And they love that because they put a lot of pride into that. And I got what they considered was their best. And boy, I'm glad I did.
Who had the best toppings?
Well, my favorite pizza overall was Mario and Salvo's, and it was their grandma pizza, which was, it's a rectangular pizza. And I thought, boy, that's odd, because I've been there before. Obviously, I've been there a lot of times. And I think 12 or 13 years ago, when I did my first Best of Central New York pizza excursion, I had this really, God, I forget what it was called, a rustica pizza, and it was delicious. I thought, oh, they're gonna make that for me again. No, they went with this. A pizza, Jim, it's not even on the menu. They'll make it any day, any night, but it's not on the menu because this one longtime pizza maker there, he wanted to try it, and he made it, and they loved it. So anytime someone asks for the grandma pizza, they'll make it. It's basically a cheese pizza, but it's in a different order. So the cheese goes on. They do the crust. They let it sit in a pan for 20 or 30 minutes on top of the pizza oven. So it rises a little bit. They put olive oil on it, put the grande cheese down. Then they stripe it with their sauce. So there's not a lot of sauce. Then they cook it, and when it comes out, he pulls pieces of basil off of a basil plant and carefully places it. So you're going to get 2 or 3 leaves on each square. It was unbelievable. I thought, boy, when I walked in, I said, really, you want me to do that pizza? Because it just seems nondescript. No, it blew me away, and it is going to be on the menu.
Now,
They just have to get them reprinted now.
that's a relatively new thing, grandma pizza and grandpa pizza. So what's a grandpa pizza? Do you know?
So yes, I had one at OIP, and because I knew what a grandma pizza was, but grandpa it just had a lot of meat on it. It was the same thing,
okay.
but it had pepperoni sausage. Oh, it was so good. But I really could only get through barely one piece.
No kidding.
Yeah, it was delicious, though.
Mario and Salvo's was my go-to when I lived over in that area, and they all their stuff is great. So I was happy to see that was your favorite.
Yeah. Oh, and I purposely saved them for the end. They weren't the last. My last one was Twin Trees 1, the original.
Yeah, you got to go to the original.
Exactly. See, I agree with you.
Everyone's
number 3 is the best, or they like 2. No, you know what?
1.
Yes, that might be, but that original is Syracuse pizza. I mean,
Absolutely.
It is the epitome of Syracuse pizza.
Avery Ave, and there's one not far from there, right down in Solvay, but Avery Ave is number 1.
It's right around the corner.
Yeah, fantastic.
But I walked into Twin Trees 1, and it was no different than it was the first time I went here there 38 years ago.
It's true. It is, and it is Syracuse. It is that is the quintessential Syracuse pizzeria. Is Twin Trees 1. Yep. So now that you've done that, and you don't look like you've gained any weight at all, which is amazing to me. Jeez.
What's next? What's going to get your blood pressure up next, Charlie?
Yeah. What do you?
Well, you're the first to know. I'm going to do a tour of the diners of Central New York. I'm going to go. I'm not going to do one a week unless I really find the time. But I'm going to do about 25 or 30. I don't think I'm going to rank them, but I'm going to tell their story, because every diner has a story.
Every diner has a story.
I found out that every pizzeria has a story, because every person behind that business got into it for a certain reason. Diners is more than just the owners, the customers. It's the people who go there every day. I will highlight their food, say, what is the one thing you're known for? Or, it might be their coffee. Or it might be this group of guys that show up every day at 5:55 a.m.
Yep.
to read their paper and talk about life, and then they go about their day. I don't know. But I want to highlight their food, highlight the people, and spend some time there. And pizza, I could go in to a pizza place and be out in 45 minutes with my meal and a story and photos. I think a diner is going to take a little bit more time.
Yeah, I do too. I think you could be there for a few hours. So It seems to me now, Charlie, that there's 2 types of diners now. There used to be the traditional diner, and so that's the Gem and Beeville Diner and Stella's.
Right.
And now there's this move toward they're hiring chefs and not cooks, and they're doing like upscale diner food, right? Do you find that?
Yes, I have found that, and it's very expensive upscale diner food.
Yes, it is.
It's great, and I will go to those places, and I'm going to go to the traditional diners.
Counter service or table?
That's a good question. I love the counter.
Yeah, gotta do the counter.
My favorite is Julie's Diner counter. That's it.
Yeah.
gotta do the counter.
You can always get a seat at the counter, and you get a bird's eye view of the kitchen, which I love. Like Mother's Cupboard. There's only like 3 seats in there, but you sit at the counter and you're like inches away from the guy cooking your frittata.
And it's not a diner unless you walk out smelling like the place.
Yeah, you got to smell like a diner.
Exactly.
It's true.
Are you gonna do Mary Ann's in Phoenix, Charlie?
I will have to expand my reach. I mean, I think for the pizza thing, I went out of the county twice. I went to Bridgeport and I went to Auburn. Everything else was in Onondaga County, but for diners, yeah, there's some real notable ones.
Yeah.
Just over the border into Cayuga County and Oswego County and Madison County.
The diner in
Yes.
Bridgeport's a good one.
Yep.
You know, I like the traditional diner. I love a traditional diner with you got 17 pages in the menu, and they make like everything from eggs to whatever you want. And
Yep.
that's a diner.
I lived in Westchester County, like the capital of the Greek diner. And
Mhm.
it's the great, you can anytime, it doesn't matter what time of day it is, you can get whatever you want
Yeah.
because they pull out a book. It's a book, and it's the cases. You got the cases of all the desserts. It's great.
Now there used to be a diner like that, a Greek diner on Erie Boulevard that my sister and my father and I would go to every Sunday, and that's the same thing. You walk in, you've got the huge display case of the cakes, you know, the giant cakes that they have and all that stuff. I don't think there's not too many of those left anymore. Across the street from City Hall, is that diner still there?
No, it's now called Across the Hall Cafe. It's not so much a diner. He mostly does take out. He's got some of the best food in Syracuse. Believe it or not. His sandwiches are unreal, and he makes, I think, one of the best breakfast sandwiches. But it's not a traditional diner. You're not going to go in there anymore and get a plate of bacon, eggs, and toast.
Okay, that's too bad.
Yeah.
I also like the old diner, like the Gem used to be the old steel diners, you know, the like a
Truck
like a
diner.
yeah, or like a subway card type
Yep.
thing. You know, I used to love those. So I think, you know, and it's true that it's so relatable to people, especially people my age and even your age, Charlie, that coming up and going to diners either late at night or after church or whatever, they're a part of the fabric of Central New Yorkers.
I agree. And sadly, you just brought up a really good point. A lot of the diners are no longer open at night. They're not open overnight. That's for
Right.
sure.
No. The Beeville Diner, boy, that was the place to go when I was, 16, 17 after doing whatever. And
That was always there.
2 a.m.
There and the all night eggplant.
Oh, yeah,
Yes.
sure.
And now it's not called all night because they're only open until I think, right after lunch.
And I would go in my early 20s after we'd go to the country club and we'd be all
Sure.
banged up. And we had
yeah.
we called it, for some reason, throughout the years, the moniker of Uncle Mama's. That's what we called it because I think we were just drunk one night and we ended up calling the all night
I
eggplant
have
Uncle
an
Mama's.
all-night eggplant story, actually. A friend of mine and I and some other guys went there one night after going to the country club, and he said to us, watch this. So the waitress came, took our order, and asked him, do you want home fries? He said, no, I don't want any home fries. So she goes back, gets the orders, comes back out. He says, you know what? I think I will have home fries. She brings him a whole plate of home fries, a whole big plate of home fries. He goes, I do it every time. Every time I'm in here. So for me, it's a daytime thing now. It's a morning thing usually. Go sit at the counter, talk to the waitress. You get the best service at the counter. You get the stories from the waitress. Get to watch the cooks. I want to see a cook back there making my eggs with a cigarette dangling from his mouth.
I was like, remember, I don't know if this is a West Side thing, but right around Tip Hill, it was called the Quick Cup. They just tore it down a few weeks ago. It was the Quick Cup Diner. And you would go in there at 2 a.m. and they'd be cooking your eggs and your home fries, and the guy would have cigarette ashes falling into your potatoes.
Just talking about Linda Lavin just died from most Mel's Diner.
Mel's Diner,
Alice.
yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Well, this is going to be an adventure for you, that's for sure. There are some iconic places I'm sure you're going to check out, and I'm interested in hearing, about some places I don't know about, and I think that a lot of people will be the same.
Yeah, and like what you said, the newer places. I mean, everyone knows Rise and Shine. Everyone knows Finally Ours because, Second Chance. They're doing elaborate dishes, and not just traditional. They're great. Don't get me wrong. But I do want to find some places that I've never gone to before. And I have a few places that I've gone to that most people have not. They don't even know they exist.
Yeah, that's what I'm looking forward to, really, because I want to explore some new places. Before I let you go, I know you guys all picked your favorite restaurants at 2024. Seems like Noble Cellar is huge with everybody.
Yeah. It's, you walk in there and it's not even like you're in Syracuse. I don't know where they've been for so long. I mean, and you know what's funny, Jim, is that this is their first restaurant. They're two real realtors or like commercial real estate brokers, and they wanted to bring high class dining to Syracuse. And boy, I admire that. And the first time I went there, I was blown away. It was beautiful ambiance, and the food was spectacular.
Yeah, I've heard that, and so we have some new-ish fine dining places in the city now. Eden, right, is another one. You know, Lemongrass has always been like that. So
Yep.
I think, we're stepping up a little bit, and I think that's a good thing.
Yeah, and we just got a new one next door to Kitty Hoynes, Touche, where they have a butcher kitchen down in the basement so they will buy an entire cow or lamb or whatever, and the chef will cut it, and that will determine the specials of the day.
Wow.
And it's really good. And the drinks there are amazing.
And that's another thing, right? Because
Yes.
people are doing cocktails now more than they used to.
Yes, they are.
And
And
better
I have a
cocktails.
feeling you're going to read a lot about them in the coming year.
Yeah, I think so too. And at the same time, however, because I was just talking to somebody, the whole non-alcohol thing is really becoming a trend among younger people. People
Yeah.
our age want the cocktail experience. The younger generation is moving away from alcohol.
Yeah.
Mocktails.
Yep. And now the Surgeon General wants to put warning labels on
Alcohol,
booze.
sure.
Yeah, and I think it's a lot of things. I mean, listen, I have grown children, and they don't drink like I grew up drinking.
Yeah, no.
I think a lot of it is cannabis because it's legal, and you can just walk into a store and you don't have the hangover, and it's legal.
I didn't even think about that. That's true.
You don't feel like junk.
That's
Just
interesting.
you just go through a bag of Doritos like it's no helmet.
Right.
Charlie, always great to talk to you, man. I can't wait for the diners articles to come out, and we'll definitely talk again.
I think you should go with him, one of them.
Yeah, maybe
you'd have that.
maybe the Beeville Diner, which is my hometown.
Absolutely, Jim.
Let me know. Let
Cool.
me know, Charlie.
All right, guys.
Great talking.
Thanks, Charlie.
Hey, it's Jim. If you'd like to be part of this podcast as an advertiser, get a hold of us at jimreithunleashed@gmail.com, and we have rates to match your budget. Trust me. jimreithunleashed@gmail.com. Man, we love Charlie Miller and we love Michael Benny. Those were two great interviews, and we're going to do more of that type of thing, trying to introduce you to people that you know from television or radio, but you don't really know at all. And I do, and so I'll try to introduce you to more of those types of people.
I want to know Charlie's exercise regimen.
Yeah, boy. I mean, 52 pizzas, man. I can't.
And now he's
believe
going
it.
to 30-something diners.
Now, next podcast, Syracuse Mayor Ben Walsh. Can't wait for that one. That's going to be good. Take care of yourselves, okay? And God willing, we're all back at it next time on the Jim Reith Show Unleashed podcast.